Some photos can hold incredible memories, while others reveal secrets, scandals, or moments so embarrassing that they can ruin someone's reputation. Have you ever thought how an innocent snapshot can become the reason for a huge commotion? Well, some people sure know what that's like, and that's exactly what you're going to see here today. So go ahead and drop your like, click the subscribe button below, and let's go. In 2017, during Miss Universe in Las Vegas, an apparently harmless photo caused a real uproar. Sarah Iden, Miss Iraq, and Adar Gandelsman, Miss Israel, took a selfie together and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "Peace and love from Miss Iraq and Miss Israel." But what was meant to be a gesture of unity turned into a huge controversy. While Adar was widely praised and supported in Israel, Sarah faced a wave of criticism and death threats in the Arab world. The pressure was so intense that her family had to flee Iraq in a rush. On social media, many Iraqis accused her of betraying the country, while the Miss Iraq organization tried to force her to delete the photo. Sarah refused, arguing that there was nothing wrong with promoting peace among peoples. Despite everything, their friendship endured. Recently, they met again in Jerusalem and reinforced the message that dialogue can break down barriers. Sarah was charmed by the warmth of the Israeli people, while Adar admitted that getting to know Sarah changed her perspective on Arabs. Even though they can't visit each other's home countries, they remain close, showing that sometimes a photo can challenge prejudices and create unexpected bonds. Can you imagine having your life turned upside down because of a meme? It sounds extreme, but that's exactly what happened to Heidi Ye, a Taiwanese model who became the target of one of the most absurd fake stories on the internet. It all started when she agreed to take part in a plastic surgery ad campaign. The goal was simple, to promote a clinic's services. But the image was edited, and the children in the photo ended up with very strange faces. The original ad was supposed to run only in newspapers and magazines, yet it leaked online and spread worldwide, and then things completely spiraled out of control. The internet took that photo and made up a ridiculous story. A man supposedly sued his wife for not revealing she had undergone plastic surgery before their marriage. According to this lie, the couple's children were born ugly, and the husband was furious. Of course, it was all fake, but it was enough for Heidi's picture to go viral like wildfire. The result? She lost countless job opportunities, saw her reputation destroyed, and even her personal relationships were affected. Heidi estimates she lost at least $123,000 in contracts, and now she's suing a Chinese tabloid for $5 million. She believes the responsibility goes beyond whoever created the meme. The internet as a whole needs to be more careful. But can we really regulate this digital Wild West? Heidi's case is a harsh reminder of how the internet can dehumanize people. A meme that seems harmless to those who share it can have devastating consequences for the person on the other side. In the end, nobody thinks about the real individual who's being ridiculed. It's as if once you enter the digital world, you stop being human and become just a target for comments and judgments. Kathy Griffin stirred up a real storm of controversy with that photo in 2017, where she held up a fake head representing Donald Trump. At first, she publicly apologized, saying she was sorry for crossing the line. But then, in a twist, the comedian decided to take back her apology. In an interview with an Australian channel, Kathy said she no longer felt regret, and that the scandal was completely blown out of proportion. According to her, the reaction was ridiculous, and over time, she lost support from various people, including figures like Chelsea Clinton and Deborah Messing. When the photo came out, the Trump family reacted strongly. Laura Trump, Eric Trump's wife, was one of the first to criticize, saying society shouldn't accept something like that. Donald Trump Jr. also joined the conversation, emphasizing how wrong Kathy's action was, while the comedian defended herself by saying the photo was a form of protest against Trump's offensive remarks about women. Kathy ended up facing serious repercussions, such as losing her longtime position hosting New Year's Eve on CNN, a gig she'd had for more than 10 years. She also received death threats, and the Secret Service even got in touch with her, though a month later, she was informed she was no longer under federal investigation. Nowadays, Kathy stands by her actions, saying the image was nothing compared to Trump's controversial decisions, such as banning transgender people from the military and pardoning severe crimes. She believes the real scandal was the public money spent investigating her while the country dealt with disasters like Hurricane Harvey. Today, as her career still recovers, Kathy is pushing forward. She's promoting her worldwide comedy tour, promising to tackle topics like Trump's presidency and other current affairs. In 2006, during a trip to Afghanistan, Leanne Tweeden had an uncomfortable experience with then-Senator Al Franken. While she was asleep on the flight home, Franken took a photo of her without her consent. In the picture, he's smiling and placing his hands over her chest while she's asleep. For Franken, it might have been a joke, but for Leanne, it was a moment of humiliation. The photo became a symbol of abuse and invasion of privacy, and Leanne revealed that back then, she was afraid to talk about what happened, worrying about the consequences. Years later, she decided to release the image, feeling relieved that she finally had the chance to share what happened. Now, Leanne hopes her decision encourages other women to feel safer and more confident about speaking up in similar situations without fear of retaliation. Later on, he apologized for his behavior and said he had no idea what he was thinking when he did it. That photo, which Franken probably thought was harmless, became a powerful symbol against the abuse of power and the importance of breaking the silence. In 1993, Kevin Carter, a South African photojournalist, captured one of the most powerful and controversial images in the history of photojournalism. The picture shows a starving child, apparently on the brink of death in Sudan, with a vulture patiently watching nearby. This image, which became a symbol of human suffering during the Sudanese famine, earned Carter a Pulitzer Prize, but also sparked deep ethical questions that are still debated to this day. The setting of the photo was a refugee camp in Sudan, where conditions were extremely poor. The child in the picture, who was about 3 years old, was weak, ill, and unable to move, probably looking for help. Meanwhile, the vulture watched with the calm typical of predators, as though waiting for the child's demise. The contrast between the child's vulnerability and the presence of the vulture held immense emotional weight. It was a difficult scene to ignore, and that's precisely what made the photo resonate so strongly around the world. Upon receiving the Pulitzer for that picture, Kevin Carter was immediately bombarded with criticism. The main question was, why, being a witness to such a tragedy, did he do nothing to help the child? Carter was accused of being just an observer, someone who cared more about capturing suffering than about saving a life. The pressure mounted, and many began comparing him to a vulture, someone who profited from pain and death for fame. At the time, Kevin Carter defended his decision, explaining that he couldn't interfere with the scene because that would violate the ethics of photojournalism, a rule that had been drilled into him before starting the job. He said his role was only to document what was happening without changing the course of events. Still, the anguish of doing nothing weighed on him, and it showed in the days that followed. The tragedy of the child in the photo was never fully clarified. Nobody knows what happened to her afterward, whether she survived or died right there, waiting for the help that never came. But the picture, more than anything, sparked a debate about the role of photojournalists and the limits between professionalism and humanity. After all, how far should a photojournalist go in getting involved with the stories they cover? Should they worry about saving lives, or is their sole duty to capture reality as it is without interference? Kevin Carter's situation became even more tragic when, just 2 months after winning the Pulitzer, he took his own life. In his suicide note, he mentioned the unbearable burden of his life and profession, including the guilt he felt for not helping the child. Carter's death was a shock to everyone, and his words ignited even more discussion about the emotional and psychological stress many photojournalists face. During the pandemic, while the United Kingdom was caught up in restrictions and uncertainty, the health secretary ended up in a scandal straight out of a gossip magazine. He was caught off guard by security cameras in a pretty steamy moment with Gina Coladangelo, an aide he was secretly involved with. And the worst part? He had been married for 15 years, but decided to cheat, which not only ruined his marriage, but also shattered his public image. Hancock, who was responsible for the social distancing rules during the pandemic, was the first to ignore them. While millions of British people were strictly following government orders, he did the exact opposite, causing widespread outrage. To make the whole thing even more absurd, Gina, his lover, worked for the government on a publicly funded salary, which only fueled the indignation. People didn't let it slide. Hancock tried to apologize and swore he was fully focused on his job, but the pressure became unbearable. He had to leave his post, and honestly, this scandal became way more than a simple affair. It was a massive blow to public trust and, without a doubt, one of the biggest controversies of the pandemic. A few years ago, disturbing images surfaced showing American soldiers posing next to dead Afghan civilians in what's known as trophy photos. This kind of record, besides being profoundly disrespectful, goes against the values the military claims to defend and led to a wave of repercussions. The images published by a major magazine highlighted war crimes committed by the service member. Among the photos were shots of soldiers lifting the head of a young Afghan man, identified as Gul Muddin, one of the victims of these brutal acts. And apparently he was just a civilian with no weapon, while the American American soldiers were smiling for the camera. Other images showed bodies in terrible conditions that the publication claimed were part of a secret collection kept by the military. At the center of the controversy are 5 soldiers accused of murder and conspiracy in the deaths of unarmed Afghans. One of them, Jeremy Morlock, confessed that the killings were part of a deliberate plan and was sentenced to 24 years in prison. Andrew Holmes, another implicated soldier, stated he was forced by superiors to pose for the photos. The United States Army issued a public apology, calling the content of the images disturbing and reaffirming its commitment to accountability and justice. The situation recalled other scandals involving military conduct, like Abu Ghraib in Iraq, raising questions about ethics and responsibility in wartime. Despite the severity of what happened, the military stressed the importance of a fair trial for all involved, reinforcing its commitment to protecting the rights of both the victims and the accused. However, this cruel practice is extremely difficult to eradicate, since unfortunately, almost every army around the world maintains the unsettling habit of photographing the bodies of fallen enemies, treating those images like a macabre trophy that feeds a cruel culture of dehumanization. In 2017, Bow Wow caused a huge stir on social media after posting a photo of a private jet on his Twitter account. The problem? He was actually traveling on a commercial Delta flight, but the photo made it look like he was taking a private jet. The situation was exposed when a passenger on the same flight snapped a picture of Bow Wow and posted it online, saying it was odd to see the rapper traveling so normally. That was enough to unleash a flood of memes and jokes about the fake extravagance. Bow Wow, of course, never admitted it and tried to explain it away in an interview. He claimed the photo was just an image that reflected the mood he was in and that he never intended to fool anybody. It caused a big reaction, with fans and critics alike poking fun at the situation and making their own photos in the same style, parodying what the singer had done. Maybe the lesson here is that you shouldn't believe everything you see on social media. In 2014, a photo of Ed Miliband, then leader of the Labour Party in the United Kingdom, eating a bacon sandwich during his election campaign caused a true uproar. What was supposed to be a casual snapshot turned into one of the biggest political memes in history, all over a simple sandwich. The picture was taken while Miliband was visiting a market in London, trying to connect with voters, especially the working class that loves a good breakfast. But the awkward way he ate the bacon made people see him more like a comedy character than a serious leader. That was enough for the internet to explode with parodies and jokes. Before long, the image became a meme and popped up in iconic scenes from movies like The Last Supper and When Harry Met Sally. Twitter and other social networks quickly embraced the hashtag #idiots, spreading the photo everywhere. Many felt that the focus on that image turned Miliband's campaign into a disaster, at least in the eyes of critics. The media piled on as well. One well-known newspaper ran the photo under the headline, "Save Our Bacon," implying he was even messing up a simple sandwich. Some criticism arose suggesting that the mockery had an undercurrent of anti-Semitism, since Miliband is Jewish, which sparked debate over how he was being treated by the press. But Miliband stood his ground. He responded with good humor, saying he was more concerned about real issues than about appearances. And he joked that maybe some people eat bacon more elegantly, but for him, the important thing was being genuine. The bacon sandwich story echoed in later campaigns, and other politicians, such as Nigel Farage, were tested with sandwiches as well. However, in 2015, after the Labour Party's defeat, Miliband stepped down as leader. Nobody is sure if the photo influenced his loss, but it definitely went down in history as a political meme. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this.